Hello, I'm Landon Schlungen. Welcome back to another coding video. Today we are going to take a look at the JavaScript Algorithms and Data Structures beta certification. And we're going to start on our first challenge. I haven't done this before, so we'll see how it goes and see if I learn anything new. All right, it starts off with a variable naming. And so we have to use a let keyword to declare a variable called character. And it's common practice to end statements with a semicolon. All right, so it seems like all we have to do is declare a variable called character and then end it with a semicolon. So that should be fine. And yeah, all right, let's move on. The next challenge, we're going to actually assign the variable a value. So we're going to give it a value of hello, and then we'll be able to use this variable in other parts of our code. All right, the next part, it's just explaining how hello is a string because it's in single or double quotes, and that's how we denote strings. String is it's a data type in JavaScript. And we can use single quotes or double quotes for strings. All right. Step number 4 looks like we're going to take a look at console.log, and it's a way to kind of debug our program and make sure it's running correctly by printing whatever is here. So in this case, we would print Naomi because developer is equal to Naomi. Um, the code above, yep. Yeah, now we just want to print character. So we're going to do console.log character, and we're going to see what we get. So it runs it automatically, and it will give us hello. We're going to check our code. It runs the tests, test completed, and it says we're ready to go on. Step 5, when a variable is declared with the let keyword, you can reassign or change the value of the variable later on. Yeah, so here we're giving programmer the value Naomi, and then we're changing it later on to Camper Chan. So in this case, we're going to assign the value world to our character variable. So we're going to do that after console.log. Character equals world, and it will still say hello, but if we move the console.log underneath, then it will say world. But right now, that's all they want. Now we're going to log character. Okay, so we can actually do Alt-Shift down to copy a line down, and then bring it down with Alt. There we go. It says hello world now. We can go on. Step 7, when variable names are moved more than one word, we use camel case, and camel case is we um, uncapitalize the first word and capitalize all the other words that come after that. So for this is an absurdly long name, we can understand the different words that are inside of this variable name um, because each word is capitalized. All right, so we're going to use camel case to declare a new second character variable. Okay, so we're going to go let second character equal nothing. So we're just going to end it with a semicolon. Right now it's uninitialized, so it will be undefined if we console.log it. So I think that's what they want us to do. Console.log second character. And then it will say undefined, which it is. We would have to give it a variable for it to not say undefined. Undefined, this isn't a string, it's an actual like data type thing. Let's move on. Assign the string test to our second character. It's easy enough. Test. There we go, help test. It says, oh, assign the string test below our initialization. All right, so it wants it right here. Second character equals test, like so. There we go. You can also assign the value of a variable to another variable. So in this case, we have first and second, 1 and 2, and we're changing second to first. So then 2 would actually become 1, and they would both be 1. Okay, so in this case, we need to change our second character assignment from test to our character variable. All right, so instead of test, we're going to do character. And our other code is up here. We still have it. We just are working inside of this line here. All right, should be good. We can remove both console.log statements and remove our second character variable. All right, so delete these, but leave the character initialization unchanged. All right, and remove this and this. Okay, just have let character equals hello. Okay. All right, here's a little bit of review. You can use the let keyword to declare a profession and an age variable. We're going to initialize profession with the string teacher. And initialize age with any value. Log both and see the results. Oh, do not initialize age. Okay, so my code passes, but for some reason the console.logs aren't showing up on the slide. Oh, that's because I have to actually hit console here. Oh, and then, okay, then I would see it. All right, whatever. Now we have reviewed declaration and initialization. Now we want to remove the code we wrote. Okay, do not remove character variable, which is up top. Use let to declare a count variable. Assign it the number 8. Let's count equal 8. And when using numbers, don't use quotes. With the number data type, yeah. So here we have a string and a number. We can perform mathematical operations on our numbers. So we can try printing console plus 1. Console.log count plus 1. It should give us 9, and it does. We can perform subtraction, multiplication, division, and we can experiment. When we're ready to move on, just remove console.log. Yeah, so subtraction, yeah, that's basic math, should be self-explanatory. Now we're going to talk about arrays. Arrays are denoted by square brackets, and we can add any number of values to the array, and it becomes like a list of data. So we're going to declare a rows variable and assign it to an empty array starting off. Let rows equal an empty array. All right. So arrays basically will just store data. In this case, we're going to store Naomi, Quincy, and Camperchan, looks like. And the order is important. So make sure Naomi's first, then Quincy, and Camperchan. That should be all we have to do for this one. And strings are also case sensitive. All right, we can access the values inside the array with the index. So in this case, we go array 0 to get Naomi. The first value is actually index 0. Then the second value would be index 1. We're going to just grab the first value and print it. Console.log array of 0. And that should print Naomi. Array is not defined. That's because we called it rows. There we go. Naomi. Yep, so we named it rows, so we have to make sure we use rows here. Let's check our code, and now it does work. Arrays are considered mutable. It means we can change the value at an index directly. Okay, so in this code, we can assign the number 25 to the second value, and it becomes 125.3. In ours, we want to update the third element of our rows array. So we're going to go rows. First, we're going to grab that index. The third value would be actually the second index equals the number 10. And I'm guessing we're going to, oh, and then print the arrays. Okay. Print or console.log rows. And there we can see our last value changed to 10. Currently, our code accesses the last element in the array with rows of 2, but we can actually do it programmatically with array.length -1. This will always grab the last element in our array. And in our case, we have to update rows 2 to dynamically access last element. And so we're going to change 2 to array or rows.length rather. Rows.length -1 to grab index 2. Because rows.length would be 3, -1 is 2, index 2 is the last element. And we can move on. For now, remove our first console log. Leave the second rows log statement for later. Control-Shift-K will delete a line. Okay, so remove both of those lines and then we should move on. In the last few steps, we learned all about working with arrays. And in this challenge, we're doing a little bit of a review. We're going to declare a city's variable, initialize it as an array of strings, London, New York, and Mumbai. And then we're going to log that to the console. Okay. So we're going to say let cities equal. It's, I'm not going to write it all out. I might as well copy and paste. And then we're going to change the last element of cities to the string Mexico City. Okay. And also they want us to console log in between. So console log cities. Now we're going to change the last array element with cities.length -1 equal to New Mexico or Mexico City. Or Mexico City. And then we're going to console log cities again. And it looks like that's correct, although we still have this console log down here, but they wanted us to keep that. And that does work, okay. Now we're ready to move on. Remove all of our code from the previous step. Delete. Okay, arrays have their own methods that we can do on them. In this case, with push, it will add this number to the end of the array. In our case, we're going to use push to add the string FreeCodeCamp to the end of our rows array. Okay, so right here, we're going to go rows dot push FreeCodeCamp. And FreeCodeCamp was added to the end. Another method essential is stop, and this will remove the last element from an array and it returns that element. Okay, so we need to create a new variable called popped. Let popped equal rows.pop. Like so. And then we're going to log popped to the console, and it should be FreeCodeCamp. So console.log popped. So if we think about what happened here, we pushed FreeCodeCamp onto the end, and then we popped it off with rows.pop. FreeCodeCamp then becomes popped, and we console.log. Yep, we saw FreeCodeCamp printed. It's because pop returns that value. But what does push return? We're going to try console.logging to a new pushed variable. All right, so let pushed equal this, and we're going to see what this returns. Console.log pushed. And it looks like pushed is 4, if I'm reading that correctly, because our other console logs are down here. So it turns out that dot push returns the new length of the array, and that's why we saw the number 4. It's important to be aware of what values the method returns, and it says we should experiment. I think we can just, okay, remove all of our push pop calls and console.log statements after experimenting, but I don't want to experiment. Let's just move on. Change our rows declaration to be assigned an empty array again. Okay, delete these 3. Also change our hello string to use double quotes. All right, let's move on. All right, step 30 looks kind of long. Declaring a variable with let allows it to be reassigned, but then there's another way to declare variables. That's with the const declaration. Const variables are special because they cannot be reassigned like the let variable, because they're constant is the idea. It's going to be a constant variable. They can't be reassigned. They can't change. And it cannot be uninitialized either. So you have to initialize it right off the bat. This code will throw an error because we're trying to reassign it. And also this will also throw an error. All right, so we're going to replace our let keyword with const on all 3. All right, so to grab all 3 at once, I like to do Control D a couple times after I highlight the word that I want to grab. And then I can just change them all at once to const. Let's check that, and it does work. We're now ready to start building our pyramid generator. Whoa, okay. Character variable will serve as the building block for the pyramid. Okay. Hello might not work very well for that. Change the value to be a hash character. Hash. All right, move on. To generate the pyramid, we need to create multiple rows. And we're going to be using a for loop for it, looks like. The basic for loop. In the upcoming steps, we'll explore each component of the loop in detail. For now, we need to construct a for loop. That includes the terms iterator, condition, and iteration. Okay, so I think we can just copy this for now. This isn't how it actually works, but they want us to have this like boilerplate in here. Keep the loop body. Oh, I need quotes in between here, I guess. Okay, so that actually took a while for it to like run the test because it had to say it's an infinite loop or something. But finally, with the quotes around it, then I passed the test. Our loop now needs a proper iterator. We can do that. Wait, is this the iterator part? Yeah, the iterator. It's where we declare the variable as well. Okay, so replace the string iterator with let declaration of the variable I. That's usually what we do. We use I. Let I equal 0 to start. I suppose we're declaring the iterator. The iterator is I. The I equaling 0. All right, should work. Might take a while to run. Yep. All right, the condition tells the loop how many times it should iterate. In our case, we want to iterate it less than count. Okay, if I is less than count, although we don't have count declared yet, when I is less than count, or actually we have count equals 8 up here. So when I is less than 8, then keep looping. It'll make more sense later. The iteration statement will tell our loop what to do with the iterator after each run. In our case, we want to increment the iterator I so that it will increase by 1 each time. So we're going to go I plus equals 1. We could also go I equals I plus 1, but I like the shorthand version. There's also another shorthand version where we can just do I plus plus, and that will increment it by 1 each time. Let's actually do the long version for now. I equals I plus 1, and that should work. Yes, it does, and this is a completed for loop. In our case, it will run 8 times because count is 8. And as long as I is less than 8, it will keep running, but it increments each time by 1, and therefore it will run 8 times. We need to print the value I in the iterator. Okay. Console.log I. And there we can see our values of I. All right, this will serve as our foundation for our pyramid. We're going to replace our log statement with a statement to push I to our rows array. Okay, so we're going to go rows.push I. Rows.push I. Should be fine. Unfortunately, we can't see what the loop is doing because we got rid of our console log. Use let to declare a result variable. Let equals results. Oh, I mean let result equal and assign it an empty string. And an empty string is, yeah, just double quotes with nothing between them. Add a log statement to print. All right, console.log result. And we don't see anything because it's an empty string. We can use a different type of loop. We can use the for of loop, which iterates over each item in an iteratable object like an array. And so that's the syntax for it. We can do const value of the iterable, which would be the array. The iterable is the array. So in this case, we're going to do this, I think. So for const, we're going to do value, or let's see here, assigning each value to a row variable. Okay, so we're going to go row of rows, like so. Yeah, and this will iterate through our rows array and call each of those variables just row. And then we can use the row inside of our loop to manipulate or use each of the values. Remember in our previous loop that we used the addition operator. We can do something similar. We can do concatenation, which is how we add strings together. All right, in our for of loop, use the addition operator to concatenate the row variable to the result value. Okay, so we're going to go results plus equals row. Yeah, and that will concatenate all of the all of them together. I think that's what they want. Let's check row to our results. Yeah, it is, but I think what they want is results equals result plus roll. I did it shorthand, and they don't want shorthand. There we go, yeah. Okay, obviously this won't create a pyramid. We need to add a new line to each row. And we do that with \n. Because the special escape sequence, backslash, is like a very special character inside of a string. And it allows us to, whatever comes after it, to do special things, like create a new line. Use a special addition operator to concatenate a new line between the existing result value and row value. Okay, so we're going to go plus new line, whoops, \n, and add a plus. There we go. And now they're all on separate lines. We don't really want to print numbers. I think we want to print hashes, although I'm not sure. Instead of pushing I to the array, push a value of character. Yes, okay. So the value of character is the hash. And we can just put character there. There's our hashes. Okay, it's still not in pyramid shape, but I represents the current row number in our loop. And we can use .repeat behind our character to print it like multiple times. To do code, we would do activity.repeat 3. So we're going to use the repeat method on our character and give it I as a number. Okay, so .repeat I, and that should, yeah, there's basically our pyramid right there. It will repeat it once, 0 times, first of all, then once would give us 2, I think. Or maybe the first one is nothing. Not really sure. But we get all the way down to 7. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Oh yeah, it does say for first one it's nothing to print because if I equals 0 and it results in nothing to print. To fix this, we're going to add 1 to the value of I in our repeat call. So instead of repeat I, we're going to do I plus 1. And then now we can see our first value. Okay, beautiful. Okay, logic for formatting this pyramid is likely going to get complicated, which means we want to move it out into its own function. We can declare a function like this function with the name of the function, and then parameters that get passed in. Function keyword tells JavaScript that that it's going to be a function. Parameter is a variable that represents a value that is passed to the function when it's used. And it may have as many or few parameters as we'd like. All right, so we're going to declare a pad row function. So function pad row. Do not create any parameters in the variables yet. Function should be empty. And we need to use camel case. Yes, okay. In order to use our function, we need to call it. We call it by just adding the parentheses at the end of the name of the function. So we're going to call our pad row function. Pad row with our parentheses at the end. Obviously, it doesn't do anything because it's empty. We're not doing anything with the function call. All functions return a value. Some return nothing, though. By that, I mean like undefined or like void. To see the result of calling your pad row function, declare a call variable and assign your existing pad row call to that variable. Okay, so let's a variable. What should it name? Should it variable var? I don't know. Let my var equal pad row. Is that fine? Oh, it should be call. Okay, let call equal pad row. Oh, it should be const as well. Const call equals pad row. There we go. Now we're going to log and print the value of call. So console.log call should be good for that one. Prints undefined. That's because our function returns undefined. In order to return something else, we need to use a return keyword. Okay, so we're going to return hello. Return hello. And now our function returns hello. And when we console log it, that's what we get. It's considered hard-coded right now. We don't like things hard-coded in programming. For the example, this demo function has a name parameter. We're gonna have parameters, I think. All right, so name sounds like a useful parameter. Add it to this function. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to actually use this name parameter. And we're going to return it directly. All right, return name. Again, it's undefined. That's because we're not passing any parameter into our function call yet. And right here is what we're going to do. In this case, it's going to return Naomi because Naomi gets passed inside demo. That becomes name, and we're returning name. Pass your own name to the function call. Okay, so Landon, and it should return Landon. Whatever we pass here, it'll get returned and console logged. Okay, let's move on. But we can actually do stuff to this string now. Looks like we're going to review how functions work. Declare function named add two numbers. Function add two numbers. It should take two arguments. A and B maybe? A and B. Oops. Log the sum variable to the console. So return A plus B. And then console.log add two numbers, 1 and 2. Should give us 3, which it does. I think this is fine. Log the sum variable. Oh, I guess they want us to do sum equals that. And then just console log sum. It should also give us 3. Oh, 5 and 10 for the arguments. My bad. There we go. That gives us 15, and we should be good to go. With that quick review, remove all this new code I just wrote. All right, variables in JavaScript are available in a specific scope. In other words, where a variable is declared determines where it can be used. Seeing if I can give an example. Variables that are declared outside of any block are global, which means they can be used anywhere inside of our code. But variables that are declared inside a function have limited scope. Here is an example title of global scope. And okay, I think we're going to do local scope next, but for now, we're going to update pad row function to return the value of concatenated character with the beginning of our name. Okay, so plus character, I think. Oh, to the beginning. Okay, so just flip these around. Here we go, hashtag camperchan. Variables that are declared inside the function have local scope, so it can't be used anywhere outside the function. Use const declare test variable. Const test equals testing. Then below the function, try to log the testing variable. Yeah, and it won't work. Okay, so if I do console.log test, it says test is not defined. That's because test is declared inside of the function. If I move this outside the function, then it will print out testing and it will be referenced, but inside the function, it says it's not defined. Let's move on. I'll remove it to pass. Okay. In this example, they're kind of explaining how functions work. In this case, we call the function getName, which is this function, and it returns the name, which is campercat. And we give captured return value, that value, and console log it, and it gives us camper cat. Okay, we can do that. We can do it directly and just console log the function call. But if we try and grab name directly, it's a reference error because name is declared inside the function and not outside. To use our testing value, return it out of the pattern function by updating a return statement to be test. And then we can console log pad row. Below our return statement, log the string this works. Console.log this works. And this line is grayed out. As you can see, that's because it's not even running. Because as soon as we hit return, it exits out of the function. But if we copy the console log and paste it above the return statement, then it will actually work. All right, let's move on. I think, do I need it like twice? Okay, there we go. Our call variable has a value testing, which we don't want. And it's no longer using the name parameter. As you can see, this is grayed out because we're not using inside of our function. Remove the name parameter from our function declaration and remove camperchan. Okay. And it should be exactly the same. Also remove both console logs. And now we just have testing again. Go ahead and remove test declaration and remove the return statement so it's empty. Okay. So delete both those rows. Function now returns undefined again. Remove the call declaration and console log. Okay, so remove both of those as well. Now we're going to actually figure out how to format our rows so that it creates a beautiful pyramid. Best way to do this is by creating function parameters for them. Give our pad row function a row number and row count parameters. Okay, row number and row count. Multiple parameters separated with commas, yes. We're going to use the return keyword to return the value of a character variable repeated row number of times. Okay, so return character dot repeat row number. I believe that's what they want. Yes, okay. Function call allows us to actually use the function like this. Methods like .push, we have been using function calls, but maybe not have been aware of that. Function is called by referencing the function's name and adding the parentheses. Okay, so replace character.repeat with a function call to pad row. Okay, so we're going to, instead of character.repeat, we're going to call our pad row function. And we're going to pass in our row number, which would be I. Although they don't want us to add any parameters right now, I don't think. Yeah, now we want to pass in I+1 for our parameters. And so I+1 gets passed into our function as the row number. And so we're going to do character.repeat that row number, and everything is exactly how it was before because we're using this same code inside of our function. Should have a comma after. Okay. And count. Whoops, I forgot that. I+1 and count. Although count's not being used yet. Okay, it's exactly the same. Use the addition operator to concatenate a single space to the beginning and end of our repeated character string. Okay, so we're going to go space and plus, and also at the end. I believe they want it. Beginning and end, yes. All right, that looks correct. Now it's time for a bit of math. Consider a 3-row pyramid. If we want to center it, we would need two spaces, and then one space, and then none. Okay, so empty spaces have been replaced with interpuncts or middle dots for readability. Update our blank space strings to be repeated row count row number of times. Open up the console to see the results. Okay. Update our blank space strings to repeated. Okay, so we're going to go spaces.repeat. Row count minus row number of times. Row count minus row number. Yeah, there we go. So that makes it like that. And we need to also add that to this bottom one. I think. I don't know. Let's see if this works. Okay, it does pass. So yeah, we can do dot repeat on string directly like this. It doesn't have to be a variable. We can pass full expressions as an argument. This is the same as 7. Update our character value to be repeated 2 times row number minus 1 times. Update our character value. Okay, so our repeat should be 2 times row number minus 1. There we go. Beautiful pyramid. Awesome. This is an excellent opportunity to further explore the code we've written. The addition operator is not the only way to add values to a variable. The addition assignment operator is shorthand, so that would be plus equals. Update our iterator to use that. Okay, so we can do I plus equals 1 for shorthand, but there's an even quicker way, and that would be plus plus, yes. So we can do I plus plus, and it works exactly the same way. Rather than having to pass I plus 1 to a pad row call, we could instead start our loop at 1. So we could do I equals 1. And this will create an index loop, and we can update our iterator and change this to just I suppose. Although then we would also have to do like less than count plus 1 for it to be the same. Because we're starting the loop at 1 instead of 0, we need to add 1 to I when we pass it to pad row. Update the first argument or pad row call to be I. Oh, okay, so just I here as well. That looks good. Unfortunately, now the bottom has disappeared because we're off by 1. We can update our loop condition to run while I is less than or equal to count. Okay, so if less than or equal to count, then it will add in the last row again. Because we're doing one more loop. Comments can be helpful, and we do that with the double slash for a single line comment. Add a single line comment to remind ourselves to change the code to a different kind of loop. Change to different loop. A little bit of lag there, geez. Let's move on. JavaScript also supports multi-line comments with the slash star and star slash for the end. We can change this whole loop into a multi-line comment with slash star and star slash. Now nothing will be printed. Step number 77, it has disappeared again, but that's to be expected. Before we create our new loop, you need to learn about if statements. An if statement allows us to run a block of code only when a condition is met. Then they use the following syntax. Create an if statement with the Boolean true as condition. Okay, so if it's true, which If we do that, then it will always run. We need to console.log condition is true. Hopefully that works. I need to capitalize this. Okay. You'll see the string printed in the console because true is in fact true. Change the condition to be false and then it won't run. Okay, so false. It skips over this block entirely because false is not true. But what about other values? To a string false. What if it's string false? Then it is true. If it's any string, then it becomes true. Has appeared again because false as a string, when evaluated to a boolean, is true. That means false, in quotes, is a truthy value. It's a value that is considered true when evaluated as a boolean. Most of the values you encounter in JavaScript will be truthy. A falsy value is the opposite. They include false, zero, empty quotes, null, undefined, and not a number, or nan. So try changing the if statement to an empty string, and then it shouldn't run because it's falsy. Yes. Text is gone again because it's a falsy value. We can also do else if statements. So we can kind of chain them together like this. First, if the first condition is false, it will check the next condition in the chain. Lower if statement and else if to check if 5 is less than 10. Else if 5 is less than 10. Then we want to console.log 5 is less than 10. Okay. And that should run, yes. Sometimes you will want to run a different code when all of the if else statements are false. We can do that with an else block at the end. It will only evaluate if all of them are not met. Okay, so here we're going to add an else. So this code will run if condition and condition 2 are false. We're going to add an else block here, else. To see the results, we can manually change the less than to a greater than. And we're going to do this is an else block, or this is the else block for the console.log. Oops. And that should print, and it does. Now that we've practiced with is, elf, and else, we can remove them from our code. Once we complete that, use let to declare a continued loop. Let equal let continue loop. And assign it the boolean of false equals false, and use let done, assign a value of 0. Okay. While loop will run over and over again until the condition is no longer true. Here it has the syntax. Use the syntax to declare a while loop. Okay. So we're going to do while continue loop as condition, while false, and the body should be empty. Okay, so this won't run at all because the continue loop is false. If we change continue loop to true, it will run forever, and it's called an infinite loop. We need to be very careful to avoid those because it can lock up our system and require a full restart to escape. So yeah, do not go into infinite loops. They're kind of dangerous. To avoid this, we're going to start by using the increment operator to increase the value of the done variable inside of our loop. Okay, so we're going to do done plus plus, I guess. Yes. The equality operator, which is double equal sign, not single equal, but double equal. It checks if two values are equal and it compares them. So you'd use a statement like value equals 8 to see if value equals 8, and an if statement to our loop. Okay, so we're going to go if the statement should check if done is equal to count. If done is equal to count, and then do something. The equality operator can lead to some strange behavior in JavaScript. 0 equals 0 is true, even though one is a string and one is a number. But strict equality, which is triple equal sign, is to see if they share the same type as well. So in this case, it would become false because one is a string and one is a number. Update our done equals count condition to use strict equality. Just add another equal sign. When done has reached the value of count, we want the loop to stop executing. And we can do that with a break statement, although assign the Boolean false to our continue loop variable. Okay. Oh, inside your if body. Oh, I see. We can also do that. So we're going to do continue loop equals false. To make our pyramid generate again, push the result of calling pad row with done and count as the arguments to your rows array. Okay, so we're going to call our pad row function again with done and count as the two arguments. Although we're not running the loop yet because continue loop is false right now, but we're going to change this to true soon enough, I believe. I need to call the push method to our rows. Wait, what? Oh, push the results of calling pad row. Okay, so result dot push pad row. We have to put this in parentheses. I think that works now. Oh, wait. Push the result of calling pad row. Push the result of calling pad row with done and count as arguments to our rows array. Okay, so instead of results, should be rows. Okay, that should work, yes. Strict inequality is the not equal equal or exclamation mark. It allows us to check if two values are not equal or do not have the same type. All right, so we're going to update our while loop condition to check if done is not equal to count. So done is not equal to count. Then we're going to exit out of the loop, and there we can see our pyramid showing up because the while loop is actually running now. Since you have moved the comparison into the while condition, you can remove the entire if statement. Yes, we can remove this. And this works perfectly fine. The loop is no longer relying on continue loop variable. We can get rid of this. Yeah, because we want to avoid using unused declarations. Pyramid generator is working, however, it could be possible to end up with an infinite loop again because you are only checking if done is not equal to count. If done were to be larger than count, our loop would go on forever. So we're going to update our loop's condition to check if done is less than or equal to count. So if done is less than or equal to count, invalid count value. Okay, I think that's what they want though. Using done to track the number of rows that have been generated is functional, but you can actually clean up the logic a bit further. Arrays have a special length property. All right, so I could, yeah, do my array.length. We're going to update our condition to check if rows.length is less than or equal to count. So instead of done, we're going to do rows.length is less than or equal to count. I don't know why this is saying invalid count value -1. Am I not using count? Count is 8. That's weird. I don't know why that shows up. You can also replace the, maybe if I refresh. Okay, I don't know. You can replace the done reference in your pad row call. Yes, we can. Um, replace done with rows.length plus 1. You may see a range error because we've created another off by 1 error. You'll need to change the while condition to use the less than operator instead of less than or equal to. Okay, there we go. There's our pyramid. I think I can get rid of this done plus plus, though I'm just going to move on for now. Yeah, now we no longer need the done variable. That should be good. Yes. It's a very clean and functional loop. Nice work. But there's still more to explore. Use a multi-line comment to comment out our while loop. Star slash or slash star, I mean. Move on. 98. What if we made our pyramid upside down or inverted? We're going to try it out. So start by creating a new for loop. Okay. For let I equal count. Then use Boolean false for your condition and iteration statements false and false, at least for now. Because you're going to loop in the opposite direction, our loop needs to run while I is greater than 0. So while I is greater than 0, we're going to keep running. And I guess we're going to decrement I. Yeah, instead of adding 1 to I, we need to subtract 1. So we're going to do I equals I minus 1. That's the longhand version. We can also do I minus minus. Again, push the result of calling pad row to our rows array. So rows dot push pad row, and we're going to do count. Wait, no, I and count. And there we go. There's our inverted pyramid. Okay, just like addition, there are different operators we can use. We can use minus equals. Looks like we can just do this. So I minus equals 1. That's another shorthand version. Or we can do I minus minus, which is what I like to do. All right, use a multi-line comment. I don't like doing multi-line comments like this. I'd rather just like grab it all and just do control slash. But I guess I can do the multi-line comment. All right, you can actually build the inverted pyramid without needing to loop backwards like we did. To do this, you'll need to learn a couple of new array methods. Start by using const declare a numbers variable. Const numbers, assign it an array of elements of 1, 2, and 3, and then log the numbers array. Beautiful. The unshift method allows you to add a value to the beginning of the array, unlike push, which adds it to the end of the array. Okay. So on shift 5, it will then become 5, 1, 2, 3. Use const to declare an unshifted variable. Okay, const unshifted, and assign it the result of calling unshift on your numbers. Okay, so numbers dot unshift, pass it 5 as the argument, and console.log unshifted. I'm guessing is what we need to do. What does it? Yeah. So same as push, it gives us the length of the array, the new length. Should declare unshifted. I spelt it wrong. I forgot a T. There we go. It returns the new length of the array. Yep. Arrays also have the shift method. It will remove the first element, which unlike pop, pop removes the last element, shift removes the first element. All right, directly below our numbers array, declare a shifted variable. Shifted, and assign it the result of calling shift on our numbers. On the next line, console.log it. It should give us 1. Yes, it does. It gives us 1, which would be that number. Notice that now that we've tried these methods, we can do another inverted pyramid approach. But first, remove the numbers array and the method and log calls. Delete. Sometimes you may wish to bring back previous code. We can do that by removing the /*. This is called uncommenting. Uncomment our first for loop. Uncomment our first for loop, like so. All right, it's no longer inverted. We're adding a new, you are adding new rows to the end of the array. Update your loop body. Update our loop body. Yeah, this would be this loop body to add new rows to the beginning of the array. To add new rows to the beginning. What do they want here? I don't get it. Should use the unshift method of rows. Okay, so instead of push, we went unshift method. And there it becomes inverted by itself. Heck yeah, man. Because it starts at here and then it will kind of go up. What if you had a way to toggle between an inverted pyramid and a standard pyramid? Start by declaring an inverted variable. All right, it's const inverted. Assigning the value of true. We will need to use let so our test can modify it later. Okay. So instead of const, let's use let. Use an if statement to check if inverted is true. If inverted, remember that we don't need the equality operator here. Yes. And then we can put that in there. Now move up. Okay. I did that, but you want us to do it again? All right, if your pyramid is not inverted, then you will want to have an else block that builds a pyramid in the normal order. So we can do an if else, an else statement, else, and then we're going to do probably row.shift, although not yet. Yeah, or rows.push, not rows.shift. Rows.push to make it uninverted. Uninverted. So weird. And we can remove all comments, both single and multi-line, from our code. Okay, so let's remove all the comments because now we have a clean solution instead of doing multiple different ways. And we can experiment with different values here. And then we completed our first JavaScript project. Okay, so if we don't want it inverted, we can do false here. We can do a count of 12, and it will become a very big pyramid. We can do a different character, maybe like 0, whoa, or 5, or H. Wow, look at that. What if we did a count of like 50? Wow, that's a lot of H's. And there's not enough space for them. If we did like 20, that's a cool pyramid. All right, there we completed our first JavaScript project. Let's see what we have next. Oh, set character to exclamation point. Whoops. Count to 10. Inverted to false. Okay. We get confetti. We get a little become a supporter ad. Okay, we completed Learn Introductory JavaScript by building a pyramid generator. Next up, we have Review JavaScript Fundamentals by building a gradebook app. All right, so like the video if you learned something today, and I will see you in the next video.